Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Leake along with Army Armstrong. We're back in Freedom Hall, Louisville, Kentucky. Last night, Army, Rod Litzow wrapped up the national championship, but it was a costly one. He flipped his USA 1 Chevrolet, but yet they have spent all day today working on that machine to get it ready to run again tonight.
I tell you what, the Chevrolet people have a tremendous amount of pride. They want to be here for the finale of the Renegade Tour. They can also play the role of a spoiler this evening, as the second, third, fourth, and fifth positions in the national point chase have not been finalized. So USA 1 could come in here and kind of mess everybody up if he has a high finish tonight. Knowing these guys, I look for a Donnybrook tonight. There's no tomorrow in this sport. This is it.
Well, of course, Rich Hoosier and Bigfoot has a lot to prove also tonight. And don't forget Steve Dane and Awesome Kong. He won it all here last night. We're going to be back to get the competition underway in Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky in just a moment on ESPN. Freedom Hall for pride and thousands of dollars. And Army, it's been a phenomenal season. It's been a long year, one that saw Rich Hoosier and Bigfoot get off to a big early points lead. Then along comes a rookie driver, Rod Litzow, in USA 1. They made up a lot of ground, and they clinched the National Driving Championship last night, but it was a costly victory as Rod flipped the USA 1 Chevrolet. They have spent all day working on it, and the question is going to be, can Rod Litzow and Everett Jasmer's USA 1 machine be ready to defend that national title tonight? Here you see a replay of that action, the Bigfoot race and USA 1. This was for all the marbles last night, the national title, and you see the end result.
The left front suspension just collapsed on him on the final jump, Richard. The tire tucked into the frame. You notice the Bigfoot crew member was the first one out. The competition is so fierce in the sport, but Litzow won the national championship, so Chevrolet is the official #1 monster truck in the country, but right now they're trying to put this rascal back together. The damage last night was all to the front of the truck. Everett Jasmer came in from Spring Lake, Minnesota. They flew pieces in. They want to go out on a winning note. Not just a championship note, Richard. They want to win the last race of the year.
Well, of course, it was a night last night for Rod Litzow of, I guess you might say, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, the defeat being that he flipped the truck. You see the broken windshield. Good news, though, Rod Litzow not injured in the rollover last night. Bad news is, can they get it ready to compete tonight? And as you see coming to the line to qualify now is the USA 1 machine. They just finished getting it ready to compete. Now let's watch it closely to see as he qualifies against John Moore's No Problem out of Lafayette, Tennessee. Let's watch closely to see if there's any mechanical problems on this USA 1 Chevrolet.
Litzow leads the line, and look at this. Prime USA 1 run.
I don't know.
But a little bit of problem. The right rear suspension on the truck, Richard, does not look right. It looks like there's something may have broken in the rear of the truck. Remember, they worked all day on the front of the truck.
All right, I saw sparks coming out from the rear end there. We're going to go down. Army has got Everett Jasmer, the owner of USA 1 right now.
We got it running just about 15 minutes ago, and possibly, we're not sure, possibly something got fatigued or broken part way last night when we rolled over and we missed it. And so on the qualifying run, the rear differential came out from underneath it, or partially anyway.
Well, I want to be the first to officially congratulate you personally for the fine job you've done in being the national champion. I know it's a goal you've been after ever since you became involved with the monster truck. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. It's been a long, hard summer. It looks like the truck is starting to fatigue a little bit. We're going to have to get it back in the shop, get everything updated on it. We'll be back for the next season.
Well, Army, let me be the second one then to offer my congratulations to Everett Jasmer's USA 1. There you see Awesome Kong Steve Dane coming out for his first-round matchup. He'll be taking on Bob Breen and Wild here. Then it's Heartbeat, Brett Engelman against Southern Storm and Terry Bowman. Pablo Huffaker just showing off. John Moore, No Problem. Then we've got Bigfoot, Rich Hoosier against Mike Witt, Stomper 1. Mad Dog, John Breen takes on Stomper 2 and Starvin' Marvin Smith. Carolina Crusher, Gary Porter facing Casper and Dale Harris. And the Gravedigger, Dennis Anderson against Nightlife and Dave Wysorek. And last night, Army, this kid out of Killeen, Texas, Steve Dane, showed that he is a force to be reckoned with now in the circuit as he blew away the field to win the championship last night.
You know, Richard, a tremendous amount of confidence. This afternoon, he was walking around the pit area singing an old Fats Domino song. I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm going to rock and roll tonight. And that's exactly what he's done. He has pulled the combination together at the end of the year loves the Louisville, Kentucky area. This is the second time the tour's been in Louisville. He won here outdoors, won last night. Looky here. No problem, jumps right out to take another win in the Bluegrass State.
So Bob Breen and Wild Hera out of Jefferson City, Missouri puts on a good show. Not enough, though. Steve Dane and Awesome Kong picks up where he left off last night, Army.
Okay, this is the final stop on a Renegade Tour this year. Can you win the last race of the event? Everybody in the crowd, there's 19,000 people here. They seem to pick you as their crowd favorite. You won here in the spring. Can you make it another one? Can you put another win under the Texas belt for this truck?
I think it's real possible here tonight. Theoretically, I have the fastest competition or qualifying time by about a half a second. Now, if I can continue just to keep my composure at the line and don't get too crazy over that first hill and then nail it once you get off of that hill, I think I can come across with a win here tonight, too.
Tell you what, Army, I really like that kid. Steve Dane, Awesome Kong out of Texas. Meanwhile, continuing first-round action, Terry Bowman and Southern Storm. Terry out of Goose Creek, South Carolina. I love the name of his hometown. He's going to be taking on the guy that broke his nose qualifying yesterday, Brett Engelman, and the Heartbeat of America machine.
Engelman nails it right on a starting line, jumps out. The old Chevrolet Ford battle will go win column Chevrolet. This one, Richard.
A wild and woolly win for Brett Engelman and the Heartbeat machine. He moves in to further competition here in the halls of freedom, and we're going to move along as Go-Go the Gorilla says, audience, just a moment, back with more on ESPN. The home of two-time NCAA basketball champions, the Louisville Cardinals. Tonight, the home of more champions. Maybe one of these guys, John Moore out of Lafayette, Tennessee. The no-problem machine against Pablo Huffaker. His name, Paul Huffaker, out of Conroe, Texas, and just showing off.
Huffaker working that right lane for the Ford camp to perfection. Look at this. No problems whatsoever with no problem. He's going to go on a trailer. Huffaker will advance to the next round, Richard.
So John Moore will head back to the volunteer state of Tennessee. Meanwhile, Pablo Huffaker is going to make his way over to Army in just a moment. He wins it in just showing off the Ford comes through.
Pablo has an awfully good run, working the right side, but you were actually two-wheeling it coming through there. You wide open, but you're on the rear wheels only.
I can't get the hang of this track. I'm having a hard time with it.
What seems to be the problem now?
I don't know. I couldn't make up my mind whether to shift from second to third gear, and I took my hand off the wheel for a minute. And that little second of time, without concentrating, like to cost me the race.
I noticed that the front end was up. You were powering it up with the rear wheels. You basically did a wheelie all the way across the cars is the way you came across the finish line portion of the track.
Well, if that'll work for me, which I hope it will, because it's hard to get traction when you're flying through the air, that may be the ticket to win this thing.
Well, coming up next in competition, Rich Hoosier bids us farewell tonight in Bigfoot, taking on Mike Witt and Stomper. Three things are on Mike's mind. The last time these two met, Mike flipped the truck. He's had bad luck mechanically lately, and Mike recently just got married, Army.
But Rich, there's a fourth thing on his mind, too. He wants to be the last man to beat Rich Hoosier. He's not going to be that man.
Well, Rich Hoosier wins it in Bigfoot. He advances. Mike Witt and Stomper one actually lost this race at the starting line. Looked like a slow start. Let's find out why.
Army, I was on the brake real hard, to bring the clutch up, bring the RPMs up real high on the motor, because I knew I had to get a whole shot on Rich. So as soon as it came off the dirt hill, I just nailed it real hard. The truck jumped, and I guess the clutch let go in it, because it won't pull right now.
Now, Mike Witt with a nice run, but not enough to beat Bigfoot, as we see John Breen and Mad Dog come out to take on a guy you nicknamed months ago, Starvin' Marvin Smith, then Stomper number 2.
Stomper 2 will be working the left lane. Out of the right lane, Mad Dog just teamed up with Research and Development with Donati Camps to find some new horsepower, and they found it. Looky here. Win will be to the Mad Dog on the right lane, Richard.
And a nice run for Marvin Smith, the Stomper 2 Chevrolet. Not enough, though, as Marvin will head back to Jefferson City, Missouri, or actually Arnold, Missouri. A lot of drivers coming out of the state of Missouri, but most of the fans in Louisville, Kentucky tonight. Some 18,000 on hand, Army, for this National Invitational. As coming out next will be Gary Porter, Wadesboro, North Carolina, the Crusher Machine against a wild guy, Dale Harris and Casper.
Casper out of Pearl, Mississippi, working that left lane to Chevrolet's trying to hold on. Richard, this is close.
It is so close, we cannot call a winner right now. As you see, they're coming across the final set of crunch cars. The finish line is coming up right there at the pole. Who made it across first? It looks like Dale Harris and Casper, the winner by the tread width of a tire. And talking about tires, that is going to be the feature of our question of the week this week. And by the way, we urge all of our fans out there, if you have a question of the week, to sit down and write to us at TNT Motorsports, 5515 Poplar Park Boulevard, Louisville, Kentucky, 40228. And the question of the week about the Renegades TNT Monster Truck Challenge comes from Patty Birchfield of Owensboro, Kentucky. And Patty wants to know how much air pressure they run in the monster truck tires. Well, to make a comparison, a 10-speed bicycle runs about 90 pounds of pressure, a BMX bicycle about 20 pounds of pressure. These monster truck tires, only 4 to 6 pounds of pressure. The reason being the low tire pressure helps allow the tires to cushion the impact of the landings. And once again, if you have a question of the week, send it to TNT Motorsports, 5515 Poplar Park Boulevard, Louisville, Kentucky, 40228. And if we use your question on a future ESPN broadcast, we'll send you in the mail a TNT Motorsports racing hat. And coming out next, the beady-eyed best of the beast from the east, Chesapeake, Virginia's own Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger against Grand Island, Nebraska's Dave Wysorek and Nightlife 2.
Wysorek, he's a new man on the tour, a good running truck. Got to keep an eye on him, but speaking of keeping an eye, look at the red eye. Gravedigger coming out. Anderson skies it way high to advance in the next round. Boy, the Gravedigger, Richard, they love him wherever he goes.
That 1951 Ford of Dennis Anderson always puts on a show. He wins and moves on in the competition. We're going to move on to a commercial break, but when we come back to Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky, we'll start the quarterfinal round of competition. It's Awesome Kong. Steve Dane will be one of those competitors, but let's look back at Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger. And Army, this track is ferocious for these drivers.
The problem they're having is nobody is landing straight. Anderson in this run comes off to the left. The Mad Dog, he bounced off to the right. Nobody can lay down a straight shot this evening, Richard.
Well, as we are back to live action, quarterfinal round, it is going to be Steve Dane, Awesome Kong. And it's funny, Army, a few weeks ago I was talking to Steve and I called his vehicle a Ford. His girlfriend, Michelle, came to me and said, "Don't you dare call that a Ford. It's a Chevrolet." And he's taking on Brett Engelman and the heartbeat of America, Chevrolet.
Chevrolet's a pair. Keep an eye on the kid in the red truck from Texas. He believes, look at this. Side, now there was a good run. Dane laid down a good straight shot. That'll advance him into the next round, Richard.
Steve Dane, Awesome Kong out of Killeen, Texas. His brother Jeff owns and operates this equipment. They are the hottest team on the circuit right now. He gets another win in Freedom Hall. Let's go trackside, where Army's going to talk to the new kid sensation on the circuit now.
Once again, Steve Dane's going to be advancing. Now, what kind of strategy are you going to use in this next round?
Well, I think I had a pretty good pass there. I don't know what my time was, but if I can do that, I think for the next two races, if I get the chance to advance, I think that's what it'll take to win, just the pass I just did. It seemed pretty nice and smooth, and I had a good ground speed, so pretty sure I can hang in there.
Well, Army, you rename Marvin Smith Starvin' Marvin. I'm going to rename Steve Dane Super Steve Dane from now on. We get ready now for a couple of Fords battling head-to-head. Rich Hoosier, Bigfoot, Pablo Huffaker, and just showing off.
Remember the last event for Hoosier? Huffaker wants to be the last guy to get a piece of the Bigfoot truck. Richard, look at that finish.
We cannot even call it topside. It was so close. Pablo Huffaker, Rich Hoosier, Bigfoot, and just showing off on a replay here. Guys, if you'll stop it for us here at the finish line, it looks like Rich Hoosier is the apparent winner in Bigfoot, but that is unconfirmed by track officials. Army's got both Pablo and Rich trackside right now.
When it gets that close, do y'all have any idea? You fellas so busy driving, you don't really know.
No, you're watching where you're going, especially in these close quarters, so you don't have time to look at the guy next to you.
Pablo, you got this rascal running. You're looking for a new sponsor to go on tour with next year. I tell you what, you're impressing a whole lot of people this year.
I just hope I don't tear anything up tonight. So far, it's doing all right.
Once again, we're waiting for the tri crew to send down the information. Butch Krager indicates Bigfoot's going to take the win. Okay, so congratulations, Rich. Staying alive. Staying alive is Bigfoot by 6/100ths of a second.
Now, that is what you call competition, 18,000 plus in Freedom Hall, loving it. And Army, a moment ago, you called Pablo Huffaker a rascal. Maybe that'd be a name for a new machine for him, the Renegades Rascal on the monster truck circuit. We move on in competition. One of the Breen brothers, John Breen, Mad Dog, will be taking on Casper and Dale Harris. Casper is known as one of the wildest and wooliest drivers in the entire country.
One of the reasons he is, Richard, he runs a taller tire. He actually runs a 72 62-inch tall tire. Everybody else runs a 66-inch tall tire. You can look at the truck and tell he's having a little bit of problems. The engine comes out a little bit of what we call death smoke. So the Toyota will be working the left lane, not looking to be in perfect health. Meanwhile, Mad Dog, speaking of, look at the transmission. Completely shelled transmission when he made the turn, Richard. From our viewpoint, this man will not make the call. Mad Dog looks like he'll get a bye run.
He certainly is. John Breen is going to move on in the competition. He still has to make his run, which he did. So he's the winner as a transmission line leak has knocked out Dale Harrison Casper. And now we get ready once again for that 51 beady-eyed beast. The best of the East is what I say. Gravedigger Dennis Anderson comes out one more time. This time he's taking on Dave Wysorek out of Nebraska. Dave's vehicle is called Nightlife. And talking to Dave in the pits, he told me the way they got the name for the vehicle, they had a bunch of neighbors over one night talking about what they could name their monster truck. And a neighbor said, well, you know, you're up all night long working on this, night in and night out. Why don't you call it Nightlife? And that's where the name came from.
Well, we're glad to have him with us on the tour. He's a newbie. He's going against the old pro, the Gravedigger. Now, remember earlier in the competition, Everett Jasmer of USA 1 said fatigue is starting to take its toll. We just saw Casper have some problems. The abuse these vehicles are taking is going to start to catch up with them before the night's over, I'm afraid.
Well, Dennis's wife, Julie, and son Adam on hand to watch as we watch him race down the track.
Look at a Gravedigger working the right side, stayed on a smooth plane. Red lights will be back for another round, Richard.
Dennis Anderson wins it again out of Chesapeake, Virginia. And if you look at the side of the vehicle, he's got the skull and crossbones. He's got a graveyard scene. He's got tombstones there also. And Army, an interesting thing, Dennis told me he wants to start putting drivers' names on the tombstones that he defeats on this Renegades TNT monster truck circuit. Let's talk to Dennis about that right now.
Earlier in the year, we were kind of teasing you about putting all these tombstones on the truck and putting everybody's name on it. You're getting to add a couple of new names this weekend, aren't you, of people you've beaten?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of new trucks in the sport, and as long as I keep knocking them out, I've got a tombstone for them.
How do you feel about your chances tonight, Dennis? Can you win this thing?
Yeah, I think I stand a real good chance.
Everybody's watching Steve Dane. Now, Steve is swearing by that left lane. You're running like a bear out of the right lane. If you two fellas get into the final, you're both going to be happy with your lane choice. Can you put him away, too?
I don't know. He's going to be tough. He's about the toughest guy here right now, and if I knock him out, that's what I'm here to do.
Well, you know, tonight, Rich Hoosier, driver of Bigfoot, bids the sport farewell as he retires as an active driver. The sport has grown in leaps and bounds because of athletes like Rich, a professional, a class guy, and a winner. Army spoke with Rich earlier today and asked him if he is retiring.
Rich, is that true?
Yeah, it is, Army. I'm retiring from driving the monster trucks. It feels like I might want to go into doing something else, more of promotions or sponsorships, something like that, and maybe get into some PR, customer service type of a job. Possibly with the monster trucks and with racing, because that's what I like, and I love doing this.
You know, as we travel across the country, millions and millions of people have developed a following for you. Is there anything, if you could talk one-on-one to them, you'd like to say to those people right now?
Main thing is just thanks for everything. It's like I've had the best time of my life doing this, and all the kids and stuff, and giving autographs, and all the people just recognize me on the street. You know, you feel like a big star when mainly it's the truck, but the man behind the wheel has a lot to do with it.
Speaking of the man behind the wheel, is there any possibility you might be coming back into the sport in the future?
Yeah, you never know. Like I said, well, I'll be turning 30 this year, and kind of maybe, you know, how long can you do this? Because you take a lot of abuse in these trucks. And, of course, my mom wants me to settle down and get married. But you never know. You know, I might get back into it next year, maybe this year, maybe a year from now. It's hard to tell. I enjoy it so much. It's going to be hard to just break away from it.
We're going to miss Rich Hoosier. I'm going to miss the great sunglasses he always wears. A real fashion statement, Rich Hoosier. Is he going to win his final battle? This one against Awesome Kong and Steve Dane.
Kong comes out. Rich Hoosier is no longer in the sport of monster truck. Steve Dane was the last man to put Rich away in the Bigfoot truck. An era actually ended right there on that run, Richard.
Rich Hoosier bids the fans farewell. He loses to the hottest kid on the circuit, Steve Dane and Awesome Kong. We crown the best of the beast when we come back on ESPN. The championship right around the corner. and we'll see you here, Freedom Hall, as we're ready for our final semifinal matchup. And it's going to be Gravedigger Dennis Anderson. You've heard us talk a lot about him, Army, going up against kind of a surprise that's made it this long and this far in the competition. John Breen, Jefferson City, Missouri, Mad Dog. He's put on a whale of a show tonight.
John Breen with the Mad Dog. He is big in the sport. He doesn't follow the whole points tour. But when he does come out and run with us, he's very, very competitive. And he knows what it's going to take to win. He knows he has his handful. Right off his right, the red lights of the Gravedigger did not move. Richard, the Gravedigger's in trouble. Mad Dog will advance.
Look here, John Breen, we told you he's a tough one. He moves into the final round of competition. Meanwhile, creeping down the track, Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger, obviously mechanical problems for Dennis.
It looks like the rear drive went completely away on you that time.
Yeah, I think I might have got a ring and pinion or either twisted a back axle shaft in it.
Where do you go from here?
Well, I got to go home and get my stuff back together, and I'll be in Richmond.
You know, we were talking a little bit earlier, the dream final to the final race of the year would have been you and Awesome Kong. I guess we're going to have to wait until next year. He loved that left lane. You love that right lane. Had it not been for the mechanical problem, I think you would have been there.
Yep, I think so, too.
We're just going to wait. How about you?
All right, I'll be there ready.
Well, Army, as they say, and then there were two, and there's only two left in the competition. They're both Chevrolets. We've got the winner from last night, Awesome Kong and Steve Dane, and then we've got a surprise in the finals, John Breen and Mad Dog.
Well, the reason people may think Breen is a surprise is because he has not been following the complete circuit with us. He's not up in the points chase, but John Breen has been in this sport for a long time. He can be tough. Breen's going to have a problem because by virtue of Awesome Kong having quick time, Steve Dane told us earlier he loves this left lane. He's going to push the Mad Dog into the right lane. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, man from Texas is going to win this thing.
So he says it's going to be Steve Dane. I'm going to say a Chevrolet will win. But then again, there's only two Chevrolets in the finals.
All Chevrolet final. Texas against Missouri. This one's for bragging rights. Texas takes the win. What a shot. Steve Dane's going to be the man to beat. The 1989 Tour. Back to Richard.
So the story tonight in Freedom Hall in Louisville, Kentucky, as we concluded the Renegade TNT Monster Truck Challenge points race for the year, was a story of breaks. We had USA 1, the national champion, breaking and qualifying. We had Stomper break down and a head-to-head matchup with Bigfoot. And then we had the Gravedigger break down at the starting line for the semifinal race. And once again, Steve Dane and Awesome Kong makes it 2 in a row to come away with the win. For Army Armstrong, I'm Richard Leake saying so long from Louisville, Kentucky. We'll see you again on the tracks across America.